This is the Momentum Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Eddie with Alex Sharfin's team, and I want to welcome you to a very special episode of the Momentum Podcast. Today, we have some audio of Alex on a panel with his wife, Cadey, at our high-level mastermind event. On this panel, Alex and Cadey break down the processes that they've built into their marriage so that they can grow together as they grow the business. And they're going to share the steps in the process that they've built to make their marriage work at a high level while changing the world with their business. I think this episode is going to be life-changing for anybody listening. Check it out.
I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be.
One of the goals that we have for this year is Cadey in the businesses that the two of us have run, she's acted kind of as a COO and as the operator. And what often happens in entrepreneurial relationships is that there's two people and one becomes the operator because they're not as much of a visionary as the other one. And then what often happens in entrepreneurial relationships is that you just think of that person as an operator, but what Cadey is a very visionary person who's also very good at operating a business. And so our goal this year is to move her more into content, more out of the operations of the business. And so we're going to start testing and like doing presentations like this to understand what type of questions you guys have, what type of issues you're dealing with, so that we can figure out what content we can create to help you. And so I'll just give you a little bit of background. We've been married 15 years, or no, how long have we been married?
We've been together 15 years, married
together
for 13
15 years, yeah. Married 35. So
35 of the best years of his life.
And we've run a bunch of different businesses together. We've also done a ton of investing together. We've done really well. We've made tens of millions of dollars for our family and a lot of money for our clients. We're not perfect at any of this stuff, but we figured a lot of it out. And so we want to open this for questions. But I think first, Cadey, can you just, you often share that process in a marriage is one of the most important things that there is. And most marriages have little or no process. Can you share with people why it's so important?
Sure. I think that we'll, as entrepreneurs, go all in on our business. And then sometimes we just think that our marriage is going to take care of itself, or our relationships are going to take care of themselves. And the challenge is that they don't. And I also believe that business is easier for entrepreneurs. I think that interpersonal relationships make us feel vulnerable. They make us feel exposed. And it's easy because businesses are very tactical, and if you do the right things, you'll get a result. And marriage and relationships are a little bit more complicated. And so I feel like, I think, even in the business that, we ran where Lucius worked with us, Alex and I got to a point where we stopped communicating. And so people were looking at us and going, oh, they've got this perfect marriage and this perfect relationship. And that business was really hard. It grew really fast. We added a second kid, and,
which is like adding 12.
Which is like adding 12.
Somehow.
And then at,
one
at
plus
one point,
1 equals 13.
Yeah. And at one point we had 90 people, where it became a lot less about what we were doing and the impact that we were making. And it started becoming about managing personalities, and, and it became really hard. And so, Alex and I are really good. There's an alchemy between us that makes business really fun, and, it makes it fun to grow together. And there was a point where we stopped growing together, and I started going into more like of the traditional role where, he was the CEO and I was just taking over like everything that I could and trying to keep my head above water. And I wasn't communicating, and he wasn't communicating either because he was struggling too.
But she was not communicating worse than I was. So
of course. And so I think because we're really good at business, there are business principles and business strategy that you can put into a relationship to make relationships easier and to make marriage easier, especially when you're wired the way that we're wired. So, because I think that if your relationship is struggling, it's really hard to make your greatest contribution. It's really hard to go and be in momentum in the business and come home and not really want to be there because you're not communicating and it doesn't feel good. And so I always say that process in a marriage isn't sexy, but you end up having a lot more sex. And I believe that, and I think that's part of a healthy marriage. So, and a healthy relationship. And
I get stimulated just talking about process. It's awesome.
So I think, the more that we can take kind of like the business principles and apply them as a foundation in a marriage, like you would as a foundation in a business, the more successful that your relationship will be. And ultimately, you achieve more together, you're happier, you live a more fulfilling life, and you can go out and make your greatest contribution.
I always tell entrepreneurs, you will only sustain as much momentum in your business as you have in your marriage. And people get kind of prickly about that, and they don't like that statement at all, but it's true. It really is true. And what happens to a lot of people is they believe that they can compartmentalize, and it's like, oh, my marriage is falling apart, I'm going to go focus everything on the business and it'll be okay. It doesn't work out that way. It usually brings way more pain and way more challenge in your life. And so the faster you can put your marriage on stable ground and then keep it there, the better the marriage is going to grow. And when we talk about process in a marriage, there's two major arguments in a marriage. Does anybody know what they are? The two foundational arguments: money and communication. Yeah, sex is a big one too, but it's money and communication. So communication is first. We don't communicate enough. And the second one is we argue about money. So if you put a simple communication process into your business, you eliminate problem number one. And if you put a net worth goal into your conversations where you drive a net worth goal, you pretty much eliminate number two. And so with a very lightweight minimum effective dose process, you can eliminate the top two conversations that most people have that are negative in a marriage. It's that easy. And so every one of you can do this. So if you look at the two, and this is like, for years we did private consulting, and I worked with a lot of CEOs, and one of the things that almost everyone was dealing with was issues in their marriage. And so I started studying relationship issues, and we've done a lot of that work too because of our relationship. And when you look at top two problems, communication and money. So whenever I see here is the top two, that's simple. So let's attack those two. And so the easiest thing to do is put a simple, lightweight communication process in your marriage, and we'll tell you what we do. And then the second one is drive a net worth goal. Because if you're driving a net worth goal as a couple, if you're like, here's where we are now, and at the end of the year, here's where we're going to be, you change the conversation from spending and budgeting and you spent too much, I spent too much, to here's what we're going to achieve together. And you virtually eliminate the money issue as long as you both commit to it.
Do y'all have any specific family rules per se to allow for that structure in the house? Like, for example, Megan and I have been married for 18 years and work together and are with each other 24/7. But if we talk about business after 7 o'clock at night, it kind of ruins the evening. Like, do y'all have any specific timelines or household rules to where business is done and it's purely relationship?
We're not super good at that part, but here's what we're really good at. We have rules around alignment. And so every morning, whether we want to or not, we sit down and align. And early on, daily alignment is challenging because it's this new thing that you're doing where you're sitting down and it can feel a little bit awkward. And then one day is good, the next day you're in a hurry. That it definitely was challenging in the beginning, but today, our morning alignment, we didn't align today because of this event, and we were both like going in different directions. When I got here, I was like, what did I forget this morning? It's been bothering me all day. I just had the realization as I sit here that we didn't align. Did we? Did we?
Yeah, we said that.
It might have been too quick then. But so daily alignment, Haley. And then the second one is every week we sit down and we go through a weekly alignment. So those are the two things that are really foundational for us. And the alignment happens in the morning before we wake the kids up when the house is quiet. And so if we do that, that's a game changer. And then we absolutely track and discuss our net worth goal. And that's a non-negotiable. Like we look at it every month. Katie has it all set up in Mint. We just looked at it for December. We just looked at it last week. And so we don't miss those things.
I'll also say, and it's easier now because we have kids. When it was just the two of us, it was like, we talked about business all the time because that's what we really like, right? It's really fun and exciting. And that's where we have like a lot of common ground, and we want to move that bar. And now that we have kids, we don't talk about business at the dinner table. And if we are, like, our kids will tell us, can we stop talking about business? And so we're like, okay. So we do have, it's a lot, now that we have children, like they're a buffer for us. And so the rules kind of get applied out just that way, through them.
And with the kids, we have this concept of like bookending the days. So we start the day with our kids. So I wake them up every day, and in a really specific way, like they don't have a challenging wake up process at all. It's a really like calm and peaceful way to enter the day. And then sometime during the morning, I take the kids on at least a 20, usually 25-minute walk. And I get a download from them. And like, if you've met my kids, it's 25 minutes of listening. I don't like, how you guys doing? And then I just walk and listen. And then Katie connects with them at some time in the morning too, usually when they're eating breakfast. And then at the end of the day, it's always our goal to have dinner as a family together and then close the day together. So we have like a whole night ritual we go to. And at the dinner table, all of us say 3 things that we're grateful for. And then at night when I'm tucking the kids in, we have them say 3 things where they won that day, because there's now scientific proof around if you recognize what you're grateful for and you recognize where you won during the day, those 2 things will amplify. So we have the kids do that. The 2 of us do it in the Momentum Planner. But those are like the non-negotiables, Haley. Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, guys.
Yeah,
Can you
for sure.
Discuss a little bit about your alignment process, the conversations, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what you talk about, what you don't talk about, just how it works?
Yeah, so we both used our Momentum Planner, and I spent, probably 3 years developing this product. And it's the product we talk about the least, but it's the one that the 2 of us use every day. And so our conversation each morning centers around what was I grateful for the day before and where did I win? So we take one step back and then we start with that. And then I share my intention, Katie shares her intention. We both share the top 3 things we have for the day, and then we both share where we were uncomfortable the day before. And it's like literally the exact Momentum Planner process.
Oh, okay. You're just doing the Momentum Planner to get together out loud as you plan your own
Not
plan?
As we plan it. We do independent planning, and then we get together.
So you have yours, and then you have a couple's. So is it one book for both of you? Or you each have your own book, but you have your couple's book, and then you have your solo book?
No, we actually use our own books, and then we just have a conversation around what each one of us is doing. And I always put my calendar in my planner, and so does Katie. And so we have a conversation about everything that's on each of our pages, and then what's going on that day and where we might need support.
So it's just transparency then.
Yeah.
And transparency and communication.
Yeah.
And like, so my wife wakes up and like, just naturally, like one of the first things she does, she's like, okay, what does your day look like?
Yeah.
Like that. She just asked me that. And then before we go to bed, she's, oh, what's your day look like tomorrow?
Yep.
And so she's kind of pushing that.
Well, this just adds a minimal process to it and a framework to the conversation. Cadey and I have both like read the books, and we've been to some seminars where there's like elaborate crap you're supposed to do every day. Like you sit down and express gratitude and stare into each other's eyes. And like we tried all of that confusing stuff, and it just didn't work. Tactical practicality works. And even if we're traveling, we like when we were in where were we? Where we did the planning every day and then aligned. when we were in Aspen this last time, even on vacation, we both still did our planning and still did the alignment every morning. And it was one of the best vacations we've had in years, because previously we hadn't. We'd like blow off planning on vacation. And then we'd realize it was like Wednesday on a week where we were only going to be there till Saturday, and we hadn't skied yet. And we were there on a ski trip. So like now doing that every day has been a huge change.
Thank you so much for joining us and listening to this episode of the Momentum Podcast. I hope that some of the processes that Alex and Cadey shared triggered a light bulb moment. And if you're a married entrepreneur, that you go out and seek to implement these processes into your marriage and into your life. And if you want to learn the minimum effective dose processes that we use as a company that can radically change your marriage for the better, your business for the better, your life for the better, go to billionairecode.com/apply-now. That's billionairecode.com/apply-now.